Hey guys, Dustin, Skidoojunky here. Thanks for coming out today for another Vintage Skidoo Spotlight. Today we're going to talk about the 1991 Formula MXX, another PRS chassis X sled. Before we do that, I want to just kind of sum up where I was at yesterday, what I got to see, who I got to see. So yesterday, my pal Jimmy and he picked me up in Champaign and we flew up to Eagle River, and Pat Schaefer, good friend of mine, fellow Skidoo collector, came to pick us up at the airport and took us to St. Germain for the annual spring roundup for the Snowmobile Hall of Fame. It was so great to get to see all my friends and fellow vintage sled enthusiasts I haven't seen in a while. Got to catch up with guys like David and Amanda McNeil. Always good to see those two out and about, having fun. Obviously, Craig and Helen Marchbank. Like I said, Pat Schaefer. My buddies Brad and Brian Wheelock and their friend Rob. He's an Arctic Cat guy. We won't hold that against him though. And then also a good friend of mine, Scott and McGregor, his fiancee Desiree. They are getting married this summer. Congratulations, guys, and good luck. Like I said, just great to see everybody and see all the sleds and the swap meet. Another reason we were there is Craig had a special award designed for Jimmy. So about 12 years ago, Jimmy made a very nice contribution to the Snowmobile Hall of Fame to allow them to complete the expansion of the museum. And Craig wanted to recognize Jimmy for that. So that was kind of cool to see the two of those guys, being appreciative for what each other has done for the sport. So anyways, back to the 91 MXX. So in 1991, Skidoo was trying to be a little bit more competitive in the cross-country, snowcross, endurocross scene, and they did that by designing this sled. So, one of the main differences that they did was they partnered up with the Karpik brothers to redesign a new rear skid to allow for more travel, to hopefully be more competitive in that space, in that segment. And the MXX also had the chromoly front bulkhead, and then Skidoo did something a little bit different. This would have been the first year that the PRS X chassis had different front shocks, and the MXX was the only one of the three models made in 91 to have different shocks. So if you remember in 92 and 93, the Plus X and the Mach 1X they had front and rear Fox shocks. Well, the 91 MXX had Engen remote reservoir front shocks. So something kind of cool, a little different, trying to give those guys in that segment a little bit of an edge. The sleds just didn't perform real well. They were under horsepowered. The rear skid didn't hold up to the rigors of the I-500 race as they had hoped. Many of the sleds never actually finished the race. If you find one today, you're going to notice that probably at least one rail has been welded, if not both, and maybe some suspension arms have been repaired or beefed back up again. Just didn't work out so well. But there were cool sleds. They're said to be around 125 to 150 of them. I can neither confirm nor deny, but this was definitely a 1-2 skip a few serial number deal for Skidoo. If you remember back to them getting caught in 92. This particular sled is serial number 201. I bought it off of Craig Marchbank probably 10 or 12 years ago, and it was part of a two-sled race team that did race in the I-500. This sled was kind of one of those sleds where you could have left it alone, patinaed as raced or restored it. The rest of my X sleds, they show fairly well, and I didn't want it to stick out, so I decided to go ahead and do a nut and bolt restoration on it. I left a couple things alone. One of them was the racer had a tank cowl or a tank blanket made for the fuel tank, so I decided to leave that alone. And then anybody that's seen a I-500 sled that's been through Tech and Contingency knows that they like to use John Deere green spray paint to spray paint certain points of the engine and other components that are not allowed to be tampered with during the race, and they leave them green so that they will know if a part's been changed or not. That's not allowed. So this motor does still have some John Deere green spray paint on it. Just thought that was something kind of cool, talking point. But a sled runs and drives. I've driven it some. I know where the other sled, like I said, this was part of a two sled race team based out of Minnesota. I know where the other sled is, collector in Minnesota. has it. He shared with me some pictures of both sleds as they were raced in '91. They had kind of a custom paint job on the hood, blue handlebar hooks, just something a little bit different. But they're neat sleds. The MXXs are actually a little more prevalent than the 91 Mach 1Xs and the 91 Plus Xs. I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that most of them couldn't be ridden because the rear skids broke. But this sled is actually not doesn't have any repairs on the slide rails or anything. And I've got Devin helping me again today, so he's going to do a little close up on the rear skid so you can see some of the differences. And I'm going to pop the hood so you guys can see that yes, there's a motor in there, and yes, it does have the Ingen remote reservoir gas shocks. But thanks for coming out today. Appreciate you guys watching, and don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button. So you can see the Ingen remote reservoirs, standard 470. There was nothing really special about these engines. They were under horsepowered for what they did compared to the competitors. This one runs good. The 470 is a great engine from longevity standpoint, just not a great engine from a horsepower standpoint. There you can see the rear skid. Like I said, nothing in that skid is similar to a C7 improved that the stock MX would have had. And while Devin's there, we're going to look at the seat here real quick. One of the other differences before I go is a 91 MX from the factory would have had the seat that started at the rear of the tunnel and went to the gas tank and stopped. Craig Marchbank had one of the first pre-production models that he was grass dragging in the fall of '90, and he swears his had the full-length seat like the Plus X or the Mach 1X have, and it actually said MXX on the seat. So if any of you know Craig, you don't argue with Craig because he's always right even when he's wrong. Just ask Helen. But so Craig has got one with a full-length seat. I think Pat Schaefer might have one, and I believe Jimmy's has a full-length seat. But can neither confirm nor deny. But appreciate you guys coming out today. Thanks for coming and watching. Like I said, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe.